My name is Gaeland Priebe. I was involved with a religious group that was based in a small town called Shawano, which is near Green Bay, Wisconsin. I was in this group from 1975 until November of 1999. When I came upon this group, I had no intention of joining a cult. I was very much into artwork. I was a very qualified and capable woodworker and furniture maker and an artist. I had received good recognition at Mankato State College, where I went to on my dome work. I was in the college quarterly magazine with the work that I had done on geodesic domes as a graduate student. The Minneapolis Star-Tribune Sunday paper came down to my dome and interviewed me and my wife. So I was in a picture magazine of the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. I had a very good life going for myself. I was doing mini courses on latch hook rug making at the college, as well as being involved with a glass hand blow on glass class in our department. I had several things going for myself. Anyway, this friend of mine who I had met in some of my classes in graduate work had gotten a teaching job at a school in Mankato and had invited me to come and hear a man talk about the future. That's all that he had said. He never told me that it was anything to do with religion. And because he said it was a man talking about the future, I was excited because I was into environmentalism, futurism, and many other type of things like that. When I got to this meeting, the people before the meeting started, we sat down in the room. The people there, the men all had buzz haircuts, white shirts, ties on, slack pants. The women had long dresses down to the floor. The long hair was wrapped up in a bun behind their head, and they were all singing hymns. I had quit going to the Presbyterian church that I had grown up in when I was 18 years old. So for 4 years of college, a year of teaching, and then a year of graduate work after that. So for 6 years, I had not attended church of any kind other than a couple weddings, and I got invited once by a friend just to attend a church service with him. But I was into just searching out. I was listening to people talk about Eastern religion, all kinds of different hippie type of things. I had gotten into the wild hippie lifestyle. My draft number was 312, so I didn't have to go to the Vietnam War, but I took part in the anti-war demonstrations and took up the cause against the war that way. I was very much into other things, and I was not interested in religion. So that night, when I got to the meeting, saw these people, it was all that I could do to stay there. I just wanted to get up and leave. But I sat through the singing, and then somebody said, "All rise," and we stood up, and this small man came walking in, had dark skin, and had a business suit on, and took his shoes off, got down on the floor in an Eastern kind of way, put his head to the floor, and prayed. And he stood up, stood behind a podium, slamming his fist against the podium, and his eyes were bugging out, veins coming out of his head, and he started talking about the Lord Jesus coming back very soon, and that this country was going to go down because of the hypocrisy and immorality. There was going to be 200-mile-an-hour wind, and there was going to be plagues and famines and droughts and all kinds of things because of judgment on this country for all the sin that it was doing. And he was saying that the interstate commerce would be shut off, that there'd be riots in the streets for a piece of bread, and kept on going for a couple hours with these kind of predictions. And then as the time went on, he started pointing to different people in the crowd and started telling them about things about their life. When he came to me, he pointed to me. He said, "Son, I see you wandering here and there, trying different things." He said, "Unless you give your life to Jesus Christ, you will wander forever and never find the answer." And even though that's kind of a general statement, people tell me that now, at that moment, it hit me very, very specifically because I was searching around. Even though I had this great life inside of my spirit or soul, whatever you want to call it, I wasn't real happy with what life was about. I needed some kind of answer. And I had been trying different things. I had gone so far as starting to get involved with some drugs and some different bad things in my life. And so when he said those things, it really shook me up. And then, as he went on through the night talking about these predictions of the future and stuff, a memory flashed through my mind of when I was 8 years old and I was standing in the evening in my bedroom at my dad's farm. And at that early age, a thought came over me that when I'm 50 years old, it'll be the year 2000, and I started wondering to myself if I'm going to be alive then, if the Lord's coming back by then, and all these little questions started going through my mind. And then as I grew up, those questions all disappeared and went out and had my fun life. Well, that night, the rush of all these memories of Sunday school, reading the book of Revelations and different books out of the Bible, all these memories started coming back to me. And by the end of the night, I had decided I had to dedicate my life back to the Lord, get rid of all the bad things out of my life, and give my life to the Lord. My wife and my friend and his wife, when we met at their place afterwards, they thought it was all, nothing to it. They didn't want to get involved with it. And so I went back to the meeting the next morning by myself. They stayed home, but 2 weeks later, my friend went by himself, and Rama told him in the meeting that the witchcraft, the seances that they were doing, the evil that they were doing was going to lead him to hell and in eternal darkness, and that he needed to stop these things. And so my friend, even though he knew these things were true, he didn't want to go forward. He didn't want to be prayed for. So after the meeting was over, the people, the congregation, all gathered around him and started saying, "You got to listen to this man. The things he's saying is important. You have to have him pray for you." So finally, Bill, my friend, agreed to go back into the meeting. So the whole congregation came back to the new room, and Rama, the cult leader, came back in also. And Rama laid his hands on my friend Bill and prayed for him. And Bill said that he saw or felt things leaving his body. And then he said to Rama, he said, "I don't know what my wife will say about this." And Rama told him that wherever you go, your wife will follow you. He went home and started telling his wife this story. And his wife, before he got to that sentence, said to him, "Bill, I don't know what you're getting into, but wherever you go, I'll follow you." And that was convincing enough to Bill that this man had the Spirit of the Lord upon him, and that he was going to follow. My wife she was an atheist. She still did not believe, but she came along to the meeting. At the next meeting after that one, she was sitting in the meeting and started crying, just weeping. Went out in the hallway, composed herself, came back in and started weeping again. And it's not like her. She's a very stone-hearted person, doesn't cry at anything. And so she, trying to figure out what was going on with herself, she started looking around the room at the other people, and realized that what these people had is something that she wanted. And so she started listening to Rama and paying attention to what he was saying. And before the meeting was over, she was convinced, and she had this conversion experience. So in a matter of a few days after that, I had gone to work during the day one day, came back home. Our room was empty. Our TV was gone, radio was gone. The shelves that I had my hand-blown glasswork on, that was all gone. The drawer that had my portfolio with all my architectural drawing, my engineering drawing, which was useful for me to get a job, was gone. My slide presentation on geodesic domes was gone, as well as about 10 other reels of slides. All had disappeared. She'd thrown everything away or taken it someplace. Our record albums and our record player was gone. The apartment was empty. And I started wanting to get out of this group really fast. I saw the whole world crashing down on me. I was not going to be able to do my artwork or do my hobbies. I was not going to be able to have my friends or do any of the things. My dome work had to go. Everything had to go. And I realized this is not for me. And so my wife called up the man who had invited my friend Bill to come, who was an English teacher in the town, and said that I was falling away. And so he wanted me to come over and to talk to him. So my wife and I went over to his basement, and another member came over there. And these two men just barraged me with all kinds of talk for about a half an hour, telling me I was going to go to hell and I was going to have a cursed life and everything else if I ever left this group. And so after a half an hour, I had just given in. So I went back home to my apartment, and I was still resisting inside. And my wife gave the coup de grace. She said to me, she stood right here face to face with me, and said, all the time I've known you, I wanted you to love me, and you still had a feeling toward your old girlfriend. Now I've found the love of the Lord Jesus. You do what you want to, but I'm going to follow the Lord. And I just melted right there. I didn't want to leave her, and so I just stayed. And now 24 years later, I'm faced with the same reality as then, that I should have gotten out. And now that I am out, I have to start my life all over again. As soon as we got into the group, all the rules and regulations came down, so there was no more entertainment for us. We had to sit down in our homes at night, sing songs of the Lord, read the Bible, and then just go to bed early. And it was such a shock to our whole psyche and everything that there was not much else to do other than to go to bed early, because we didn't even, how many hours can you read the Bible when you're first getting started on this thing, and how many hours can you pray? We would go out into the field or out into the woods or into a park in the afternoon after we got done with work and walk around and pray and sing songs out there. When we come back to our house, we'd eat some supper, and maybe one or two of the brethren would come over and we would kind of talk, but we weren't supposed to have a small talk. We weren't supposed to just chit-chat. So any talk, everything had to be turned into a testimony. So we would say how the Lord had blessed our work today, or how the Lord had helped us find our keys which we had lost. And everything had turned into this, had to have a connotation of something to do with the Lord, otherwise we couldn't talk about it. So very trivial things became miracles, and it was very bizarre how we ended up talking and fantasizing this concept of miracles and things to connect with the Lord and things like this. Within a few weeks after we got into the group, Rama started saying we have to fast for the weekend. So we got to eat on Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday was a prayer day. On Wednesday night we were supposed to have meetings, so we couldn't eat on Wednesday during the day. So we'd go to, after the meeting was over on Wednesday night, then we could have a supper afterwards. And then shortly after we got into the group, Thursday and Friday we were supposed to fast. And then Friday night we had to pack up our cars, and either the meetings were going to be in Mankato, and then in the later year, after about 6 months of meetings there, a young man was killed in a head-on car crash coming to one of these meetings, and so we didn't have meetings in Mankato anymore. We started having meetings back in Rochester then after that, and that went on for about a year. And so back to the fasting thing, Thursday and Friday we could not eat. We had to pack up on Friday night, drive to wherever the meeting was at. Sometimes we ate on Friday nights, other times we didn't eat Friday night. Saturday night, sometimes Saturday night we ate, sometimes we waited till Sunday afternoon to eat whenever Rama would cook on the weekend. He would always cook an Indian-style curry, which was a big pot of water, basically, with fried hot pepper or cayenne peppers, fried mustard seed, fried garlic and onions, a bunch of packages of chicken pieces were thrown into there, kind of turned around in the oil a few times to sear them a little bit, and then gallons of water were poured into this pot, and then the chicken was boiled, basically. It was never cooked thoroughly. The chicken on the inside was still raw. On the outside it was barely cooked. There was maybe some tomatoes in there, and then there would be a pot of rice sometimes, but not always. So we have a bowl of rice with this juice, maybe a piece of chicken and a little bit of this spice. There was curry powder and many other spices that were in it. This was our meal after fasting for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and possibly Sunday. This was our meal that we left with on Sunday afternoon to go back home with. So then the routine started all over again. Monday and Tuesday we got to eat. Wednesday we couldn't eat. Wednesday night we could eat. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Saturday night we got to eat, or Sunday we got to eat again. So very quickly I went from my 155 down to 120 pounds. And the contributing, the tithing and all that kind of stuff, the rules and regulations on that came into being right away. So we started working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, and for myself, I was able to keep the same job but just put in more hours. So we were up to the 17 and the 20 hours or the 24 hours of working. And basically that consumed our lives. When we got there on the weekend, we'd have a meeting on Saturday morning, stop at noon, go to work in the afternoon on a construction project. Some weekends the men were allowed to stop working on Saturday night, go to a meeting. The women all had to go to the meeting on Saturday night. Those meetings would go till 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then go to sleep. Sleep meant, at first, in the first few years, we got to go to hotels, but as the families got bigger, the mothers were trying to sneak all their children in and not having to pay for more than 1 or 2 people in a room. So the hotel managers all got mad and wouldn't allow anybody from Rama's group to sleep in the hotels. So then, by that time, these neighbor houses had been bought out by members of the group. So we had, 10, 12 families sleeping in the basement of these couple houses that were right there. So we had wall-to-wall children and mothers. The men had to sleep out in their cars. And then there was problems that came up with these houses. So then the mothers had to sleep out in the car. And so that's where this one, I don't know if I told about it before, the one mother, the mother was sleeping in the cars. It was the middle of winter, 20 below zero. This one mother was covering up her baby to keep it warm at night. The next morning, she uncovered the baby, and the baby had suffocated. Rama told the mother and the father to take this baby back to Rochester, Minnesota, where they came from. Now, the compound, again, was near Green Bay, Wisconsin. It's 250 or 280 miles back to Rochester. They had to haul this dead baby back to Rochester, take it to the doctor there, tell the doctor that it had died in its sleep, in its bed, at home. And so the coroner's report puts down crib death. And this baby is buried in a cemetery in Rochester. It was never investigated properly. This baby's death is totally, was covered up. So that was one instance. So the sleeping issue, the health and sanitation issues of this compound are incredible. Rama would not let us use the bathrooms at Rama's compound. There was too many people. The people wouldn't clean up the bathrooms afterwards and stuff. So we had to go over to these 2 neighbors' houses. So we were talking a couple hundred people going to 2 different bathrooms in these 2 houses. And we're talking the family bathroom back in the house that these are both little ranch-style houses, 1-floor houses with the basements underneath of them. In the one house, there was a little half bath as soon as you came in from the garage. That was the bathroom we got to use. All it was a toilet at an angle in the corner of the bathroom. This was a closet that they had converted into a bathroom in this house. So you have a little sink and a little toilet. You have a line of 50 to 100 people waiting to use that one little toilet. After everyone, we would sit in these meetings anywhere from very shortest was a couple hours to the length of 6 or 8 hours. We were sitting there holding ourselves, having to go to the bathroom, and on Sundays especially, if we ate Saturday night, this rice and juice and this curry, the spice in there, sometimes it had left, it was set from the week before, so it had fermented during the week. So you have this spoiled food. We'd eat this bowl of spoiled food. Even if it wasn't spoiled, it was just the liquid in the rice and the juice was enough to make you have to go to the bathroom every hour. These people were holding themselves for, like I said, 6 to 8 hours. And so they were all, they were raising their hands to leave the meeting, and Rama wouldn't let anybody leave the meeting. Some of them wet their pants right there on the floor. Other people would run out of the room, and have to sit and dance around as long as they could out in the outer room, holding themselves, wanting to go to the bathroom, and eventually adults even were wetting their pants. This is so humiliating. It was unbelievable. Wetting your pants wasn't so bad, but other people had diarrhea in their pants and dirtied their pants. Adults again, dirtying their pants. Well, then you've got, after the meeting, the ones who could hold it were standing in line out there. You got this whole, from the house across the backyard, coming over toward Rama, you've got 50 to 100 people standing in line, dancing around, holding themselves, waiting to go to the bathroom. This is so humiliating. It's not undescribable, the feeling that goes through people, adults especially. Kids, they're little kids, they don't know better. But adults have to sit there and hold yourself like this and go through this humiliation is undescribable. So this went on week after week. And then the cleanliness Rama made us go through. We had to take a shower before every meeting. Whether it was the noon meeting, the night meeting, we could not pray unless we took a shower. So again, you've got, a couple hundred people going into 2 showers, trying to take, so they were forced to rush to the shower. So they didn't get clean. They'd come out of the shower, didn't even take time to dry off. They'd just whip on their clothes again and come running over back to the meeting again, because he would yell out, "You've got 7 minutes to go take a shower and be back here again." And he just threw out this number out. There's no physical possible way that they could do it, but they still had to try to obey his orders. So the women came running out of there with soaking wet hair. They were wrapping it up into their bun and putting the dart through there, with sopping wet hair. There was water dripping out of their clothes when they put them back on, and going over, sitting down to this meeting, and that was supposed to be called cleanliness. And so the absurdity of daily life is, just beyond. We had to lie in our daily life during the week. I had a furniture company. I was working for another man to start with, and then a couple years into the group, that man had a car accident, and the Lord had made known that I was going to have my own furniture company. Eventually, while I was still working for this other man, one by one, I ended up hiring the brethren, these men out of the group, to come and work with me. When we started our own company, these brethren moved right in along with me to this new company. Rama took over this company. We had to call Rama in the morning, tell Rama what our schedule of work was for that day. At the end of the day, we had to call him back again and tell him how many of those things we got accomplished. If we didn't get it all accomplished, he would just rail on us and yell at us for not following his schedule and not getting all the work done. In the middle of it, he would throw in some projects for his compound, for his house or whatever, and so, which made it even harder to get done and also took away from our income for the project. There was one particular time where we did a very big order for a lawyer up in North St. Paul. We got one check, one lump check as a final payment on all the work for $19,000. Rama wanted us to go in. A man had bought a farm over by La Crosse, Wisconsin. The farm next to him had come up for sale. We had to take this $19,000 check and invest it into that farm rather than paying all the debts and bills and expenses of the furniture company. The company, he forced our company, the furniture company, into bankruptcy. There was a sheriff auction eventually, and we had to sell off everything. It was set up as first as a sole proprietor. Me and my wife were sole proprietor. Then, because I wasn't following his rules good enough, two of the other men, this English teacher and my friend, were set up as partners. There was 3 signature lines on the check because Rama didn't trust me to handle the money anymore. So these 2 other men had to sign the checks with me and had to call Rama and tell him that we were spending this money for such and such. Rama had another young man come in and be the bookkeeper and office keeper at the company. And he took total control of the company. Eventually, he told us we could not go to public events and have a booth there anymore. This English teacher was to become the road salesman and sell product on the road for us. He was a terrible salesman, and there was no orders ever came from that. Eventually, the company just dried up, and there was a sheriff auction, like I said, and it was sold up. They bailed out. The partnership was dissolved. I ended up with all the debt from the company. I ended up filing bankruptcy a couple of years after the company had dissolved. After I got out and went around and found all the ex-members, I have found, and I have not put a number on it yet, but there are several other men in the group who got in similar situations where they had to remortgage their home to pay off a loan or do something for Rama. Ended up, and Rama always told them that the brethren would pay them back. It never happened. Almost every man, every husband in the group was forced into a situation like this, and I have found out several of them had to file bankruptcy, all to support Rama. And he continuously did not pay his property taxes, so every year the last tax, which was the most delinquent, they were ready to have a sheriff auction on Rama's property. Rama would have, in the congregation meeting, he would say, "Brethren, this tax is due and we have to come up with $15,000 by next Wednesday." So everybody in the group had to give up a whole paycheck for this tax. I gave up $1,000 paychecks just to pay his tax so it would be done by this next Wednesday or whatever the day was. This happened every year at tax time. We had our own taxes, we had our own insurance, we had all these things, but we had to make sure that his bills were always paid beside all of our own things.